Good evening, everybody. It's good to be with you tonight. My name is Nate Eaton. This is Courtroom Insider. We're inside the trial of Chad Daybell, day number 30. And it is November. It's not November. It feels like November. It's May 28th, 2024. And we're in the winding up scenes, guys. It's coming down to the wire. And who knows? Just think, it is not saying it will happen. It's very well possible that 48 hours from right now, we definitely could have a verdict. But it's happening. We are at the end. Today was a big day. The final witnesses were called in this trial that has lasted 8 weeks, 9 weeks if you include the week of jury selection. We've been through dozens and dozens of witnesses, countless and just unbelievable piles of evidence, of exhibits. We've heard testimony from people. We've heard, I don't know how many questions. Somebody should count how many questions were asked this trial. Thousands, perhaps. And we have the 17 jurors still there. We lost one. We lost one several weeks ago who got sick. So we went from 18 to 17. And tomorrow, 5 of those jurors will find out that they are the alternates, that they will not deliberate, that they've sat through this trial for the past 8 weeks, and they don't get to go in and have a say. So it's a big day. Tomorrow is a momentous day. I want to talk to you about everything that happened today in court and explain to you how this week's going to go and explain to you a change in death penalty jury instructions that went into effect days ago in the state of Idaho. The instructions this panel of jurors will get tomorrow are instructions that have not been told to jurors yet in the state. And it's pretty interesting what you're going to hear. I got a preview of that. Here's what we've got tonight. Final witnesses. It's time. We're going to talk about the final rebuttal witnesses, the jury instructions. As I mentioned, tomorrow we will have closing arguments. Then what? New death penalty instructions, and you respond. Many of you sent me videos sharing your thoughts about this trial and the key points that you thought that you saw. I'm going to play those for you tonight. Really interesting collection of opinions. Also, you all are watching from all over, which is amazing to me. That's why I like to ask where you're watching from, and if you want to leave that in the comments, because it's incredible the reach of this little show from my hotel room. And we're going to remember JJ, Tylee, and Tammy. And of course, we'll answer your questions perhaps for the last time. No, I shouldn't say for the last time. We'll do this a few more times, but because we still have several more days of court. It's just kind of all up in the air. We don't know. I have to tell you that right now there's a huge lightning and thunderstorm happening outside. I hope we don't lose power, but if suddenly we go black, you'll know why. Jordan, my photographer, just arrived from East Idaho News. He drove over from Idaho Falls. He's going to be here for the rest of the week into next week as we get ready for a potential verdict. And we went to have dinner, and on the way back, it was pouring rain, so I probably still have rain specks on my shirt. Please forgive me. Okay, before we got started today, I'll just a quick synopsis. The first thing that was talked about is the prosecution wanted to have Janice Olson testify. She was a teacher who overheard Tammy, or Tammy told her, or she overheard it, that her husband, Chad, wanted her to up her life insurance before she retired. Janice Olson previously testified, and she was released from her subpoena, so she did watch some of the testimony. She admitted that. And the judge ended up saying, well, she can't testify because she watched some of the witness testimony. So that was the issue that happened first thing this morning. This was the Zumba teacher who invited me and my wife to go to a high fitness class, which would be humorous to watch me in high fitness. But maybe when this trial is over, perhaps I'll need it. I need it anyway, but we'll see. Then they jumped right into the rebuttal witnesses again. First one today was Dr. Eric Christensen. This is the medical examiner who did the autopsy on Tammy, who ruled that she died by homicide because of asphyxiation. He testified that he reviewed Dr. Raven's testimony. She's the witness that John Pryor called who got on the stand. We talked about it a little bit last night, who said that she did not think that Tammy died of asphyxiation and that it should have been marked undetermined. And Dr. Christensen was called up by the prosecution to try to respond to that. He said he reviewed all of her findings. He reviewed his findings. He reviewed so much of the reporting that he did and basically said, my opinion hasn't changed. Hasn't changed at all. Here's what he said.
Toxicology tests were in fact conducted, correct?
Yes.
Based on those, did you find it likely that Tammy would have died of anything related to toxicology issues?
No.
And then what is another cause that can that you would look into?
Seizures was also something we assessed.
And again, you reviewed Tammy's medical records, is that right?
Yes.
Any notations or signs of a prior history of seizures?
No.
Did you ultimately determine seizures was a likely cause of Tammy's death?
No, it was not a likely cause.
And then you said a cardiac arrhythmia?
Yes.
Similarly, did you look at Tammy's heart?
Yes.
Any signs of irregularities?
Her heart was structurally normal.
Given her age, medical records, and your review of everything, did you determine that a cardiac arrhythmia was a likely cause of death?
It was not.
And what did that leave you with?
That left asphyxial causes essentially at that point.
So he didn't change
Did you
that.
see
Listen up.
any indications in Tammy's medical records of any negative interaction of any drugs and or homeopathic medication she may have been using?
Judge, again, it's cumulative.
Overruled.
Are you aware or did you learn that Tammy was taking an antidepressant?
Yes.
Did you see any signs or indication that the antidepressant played a role in her death?
No.
Did you see any sign or indication that sleep apnea may have played a role in her death?
No.
Did you see anything in her medical records regarding sleep apnea?
Not that I recall. No.
Would sleep apnea generally be something that you would be concerned about causing a sudden death for someone?
When it does, it certainly can be associated with sudden death, but generally speaking, that is in the setting of someone who has significant additional comorbidities, usually significant obesity and underlying heart disease.
In reviewing Tammy's medical records and performing the autopsy, was Tammy obese?
No.
Okay, we know Tammy was not obese, so the doctor was saying
Are you familiar
She didn't
with,
die from
and
any
they
of
say
these
this
things.
term wrong, but colloidal silver?
Colloidal silver.
Colloidal
Yes.
silver? Any indication that played a role in Tammy's death?
No.
that issue was raised by Emma, who said that her mom was taking that silver, and maybe that contributed to her death or made her sick. So that was his testimony. John Pryor got up, did some follow-up questions, and then Detective David Stubbs took the stand. This is the detective that went through all the phone data from the Rexburg Police Department, tracking down Alex's movements, got the warrants for the phones in the area of the Daybell property and whatnot. And he testified an interesting bit of info that we had not heard before, that Chad, or I should say, whoever was using the Chad.Daybell Google account shut off location services so that location is not tracked. Also requested that all previous location going all the way back to 1970 be deleted. Now, why 1970? Because cell phones weren't around back then. That's like the date that computer companies apparently use as like their start date. So he requested, I believe, in August, to turn August 24th, 2019, to have his location data cleared. And here is what Stubbs said about that.
When you reviewed those records, did you find anything related to turning location data off on a phone?
Yes, I did.
What did you find?
January 3rd, 2019, the user of the account looked up how to turn off the location services on location or GPS services on an iPhone.
When you get, have you had other occasions to review returns from Google for Gmail accounts?
Yes, I have.
And you talked earlier about looking for location data.
Correct.
Where do you normally find that in the return?
So when Google sends you a return of requested items from your search warrant, most generally, if they have information, it'll come in different, if you will, folders in one packet. And those packets are all labeled, folders are all labeled. So there's usually a folder that has location services as the heading.
Was there any such folder in the chad.daybell@gmail.com return?
There was a tab of that, yes.
And did you open that folder?
Yes.
What did you find in that folder?
When you open it, it's usually if there is information, it will come in the form of an Excel spreadsheet. However, if they don't have anything, it'll open up in a different window that says, as did this one, that there were no location services available.
So somebody Googled that. How to erase history from an iPhone. And Pryor got up to make the point that Chad Daybell doesn't have an iPhone. Here's what he said.
Are you aware that Chad Daybell has an Android device? Yes. Okay. Are you aware that Tammy Daybell had an iPad device? I'm sorry, one more time. Had an iPad device. That Tammy did? Yeah. I'm not sure of that. Okay, so if someone's trying to turn the location off on January 3rd of 2019 for an iPhone or an iPad, that doesn't necessarily mean they're looking up how to turn off an Android device, does it? That's correct. Okay, so this search was in talking Apple devices, right? That is right. And you're aware that Chad Daybell didn't have an Apple device, right? I'm not sure if he had an Apple device, but I know he had an Android. Okay. You're also aware that around January 3rd of 2019, that was shortly or around the time that Chad Daybell started having an extramarital affair with Lori Vallow, right? Yes. Okay, so it wouldn't be unusual for someone who's having an affair, even if Chad doesn't have an iPhone or an iPad, to try to maybe hide the fact that he's having an affair with someone, correct? That could be the case. Okay.
Then Rob Wood stood up and said, someone having an affair might try to hide that information. Would criminals try to hide that information too? And Stubbs said yes. Chad may not have had an iPhone, but we know for sure Lori did because of her iCloud account. So somebody could be searching up on behalf of a friend and then shutting off their location services. And then the very last witness in this portion of the case, Lieutenant Ray Hermosillo, third time on the stand, this trial. And he just kind of cleaned up, clarified some of the stuff that the kids testified to. Remember when Emma said that Hermosillo, she saw him at the gym and he came over and worked out right next to her and she didn't have a good feeling about it? And remember how Joseph said he would constantly drive by the house and drive slow? Well, he was asked about that by Lindsay Blake. Here's what he said.
During the investigation, did you learn who Emma Daybell or Emma Murray is?
We did.
And who is she?
The daughter of Chad Daybell.
Lieutenant Hermosillo, did you ever see Emma Murray at the gym?
I did one time early on in the investigation, yes.
And when you say early on in the investigation, would it have been before the discovery of the children?
It was.
When you saw her at the gym, did you approach her?
No,
Did you talk to her?
no,
Did you ask her questions?
No.
Did you go and work out by her?
no.
Have you ever driven by the Daybell property?
I have, yes.
Did you drive by it as part of this investigation?
Yes, I did.
Do you have other reasons that you would sometimes drive by that property?
I have several reasons. We have our dry cleaning business that's a quarter mile down the road from the Daybell residence. I also have family that lives north of the Daybell residence. But most importantly, I think the reason I was driving by the Daybell residence was it was a very active investigation at that time.
Did that include driving by prior to the children being located?
I'm sorry, could you say that one more time?
Did you drive by prior to the location of the children's bodies?
Yes,
And did you drive by sometimes after?
yes,
Did you drive by 2 times a week?
no,
And again, when we talk about driving by that property, you said that was a significant piece of the investigation.
it was.
And can you remind us what was found on that property?
JJ, Vallow, and Tylee Bryan.
And those were some of the last words the jurors heard today. John Pryor had no follow-up questions. The judge dismissed the jurors to go home. And then he got together, the judge, with the prosecution and the defense to go over the instructions that the jury will hear tomorrow. And we got a little sneak peek at them. We didn't hear them. There's 41 juror instructions. This is quite the, it'll probably take an hour maybe to go through all these. There will be 41 instructions will be given to the jury. So he needed to make sure that both the prosecution and the defense didn't have any issues with the wording on them. A lot of these instructions are standard with Idaho, and I'm going to go through a few in a minute with you to talk about some of the changes that have happened. The thing is that the jurors will now have to follow those instructions carefully. There were a couple of back and forth questions, one of the big ones being that just last week, the Supreme Court issued new approved instructions as of May 22nd, about what reasonable doubt is. Talk about crazy timing. This is the first jury in the state, most likely, that I'm aware of, to have this rule change. And so Judge Boyce was saying, okay, do we go with the new rule or do we go with the old one? The old rule that the jurors have heard from the beginning, that they've been reminded of several times, that they learned about. Do we now say, actually, sorry, it changed, you need to look at it this way? The prosecution argued, stick with the old way, we don't want to confuse him. The defense argued, no, do the new way. Boyce decided, we're going to go with the old way, don't want to add confusion. Plus, if there's appellate issues, then it becomes, well, which way did they go? And that's up to the judge to decide which way they go. And so that's what he decided. So we're going to go over that in just a second. Tomorrow, here's the deal. Here's what happens from here. Court starts at 10 a.m. Every seat is gone. If you don't have a ticket, you probably shouldn't come down because you probably most likely will not get in. These tickets were gone in 30 seconds, and there were less tickets today because there will be more people in the courtroom tomorrow from like law enforcement and other investigators. So watch from home because I would not recommend. It's going to be very, very hard to get in there unless you have a ticket. Fortunately, I got a ticket. Thank goodness I have a ticket. I know a lot of people that didn't, that have been there every day this trial and they didn't get a ticket. But court will begin at 10 a.m. First thing, the judge will read the jury instructions, the 41 instructions. That will probably take an hour. That's about what it took in Lori Vallow's trial. Then we will have closing arguments. The prosecution will go first. In Lori Vallow's trial, they took about an hour and 15 minutes. The defense will then go. In Lori Vallow's trial, they took about an hour. Then the prosecution gets one final crack at a closing argument, and that'll be about 20 minutes. In this case, Rob Wood did the opening statement. I'm betting Lindsay Blake will do closing arguments here. I don't know that for sure. That's just my bet. In the other trial, Lindsay did openings and Rob did closings. I think that they just switched this one, but we'll see tomorrow. So they will have that, and then the jury deliberates. And they can take as long as they want. And we will stay at the courthouse as long as it takes, with one caveat, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. So heads up, tomorrow I might not be here doing Courtroom Insider. If tomorrow at this time the jury's still deliberating at the courthouse, I'm going to be there. I'm not leaving the courthouse if the jury's still there. And there's no way for me to go live from inside the courthouse because it goes against all the rules, and I would get kicked out and be held in contempt of court and maybe go to jail, and then I'd have to really wear one of those mugshot shirts. So if court gets out, though, tomorrow before 6:30 Mountain Time, I'll be here. We'll do another show. So just a heads up, might not be here tomorrow. I'll keep you updated through my Facebook and Instagram and whatnot. But the jury could deliberate all day tomorrow. The jury could say at 8 o'clock, we're done. We want to go take a break. We'll be back in the morning. That's what happened with Lori Vallow's trial. They started around 1 or 2. They had got dinner brought in, and then they went home about an hour later. And then they came back the next day. That could very well happen here. But they will deliberate until we get a verdict. That verdict could come any moment. I'm hoping it comes Wednesday or Thursday personally, because I leave for CrimeCon. Many of you have emailed me about this. On Thursday night at 6, I fly out of Boise. We have other team members coming to court to cover this if court is still in session. And I plan to bring all of this gear that you see me here live with me to Nashville. I'm going to set up a little studio in my room and still bring you live coverage of the event. So I'll still be there, but I won't be there. I'm committed to do host these sessions at CrimeCon, and so I need to fulfill that commitment. I'm interviewing Summer Shiflett, Lori Vallow's sister, who has a lot of interesting stuff to say. It's very timely, and I believe after CrimeCon's over next week, for those of you that can't make it, I'll be able to share with you about that experience and maybe show you some clips from that interview. And then I've even talked with my wife, who's coming with me to CrimeCon. We might do, I'm thinking about it, give me your thoughts, a live show, a live Courtroom Insider, like from CrimeCon, there like in the hall or something with everybody around us. And if you come, you can come and watch it live, maybe on Saturday or something, or on Friday. So just a heads up that I'm still covering this, and if the verdict comes down Thursday, that would be amazing. I have no sway on the jury. But then the big question becomes the penalty phase. Because this is a death penalty case, what happens with that? And that's when, if the jury finds that there are aggravating factors in this case, then we go into a penalty phase. And this will explain exactly what that means as soon as my computer refreshes. So I'm going to go over right now with you what the jury will hear tomorrow, and basically what the law says. And wouldn't you know that my computer just froze up? So I have to reset it briefly. You're going to hear the Apple chime here in a minute. These are the instructions that the jurors are going to get. These are the things that the jurors will deliberate. It's 30. I'm not going to read all 32 pages, but the Supreme Court just updated this last week for the state of Idaho, and this is where the issue that Judge Boyce read, or where they discussed the certain qualifications as to the instructions versus reasonable doubt do they go with the old or the new ones? So let me pull this up for you. This is, I'm going to be honest, this is new territory for me. I have not covered a death penalty case in the state of Idaho. Judge Boyce has not. This is John Pryor has not. This jury has not. Unless some of these jurors have served on other juries that maybe I'm mistaken about. But this is a, and I should say Judge Boyce as a judge has presided over death penalty cases, but they have resulted in plea agreements so that it doesn't go all the way to trial. So everybody's kind of watching, you know? We for sure are, and I know that you all are. What I want to do tomorrow too is I'm going to set up a Facebook post asking you to share with me, please don't do this now and don't email me yet, whether you think, when you think the verdict will come down and the time and the date. And then we will do a winner, whoever gets the closest. Okay, I think we got it. I'm going to zoom that in, hopefully, so that you all can see it a little bit better. Okay, so this says, this order that was issued by the Supreme Court, revisions to the following Idaho criminal jury instructions and death penalty instructions. So that's just kind of a basic little rundown here about death penalty, murder, aggravating factors, da-da-da-da. So you will hear tomorrow, here's the reasonable doubt section, the section that was the big question today. You'll hear Judge Boyce read this tomorrow. Under our law and system of justice, the defendant is presumed to be innocent. The presumption of innocence means two things. I'll make this a little bigger. First, the state has the burden of proving the defendant guilty. The state has that burden throughout the trial. The defendant is never required to prove his or her innocence, nor does the defendant ever have to produce any evidence at all. Notice this paragraph that was struck. Second, the state must prove the alleged crime beyond a reasonable doubt. Then we have about 4.5 lines cut, and instead it's replaced with proof beyond a reasonable doubt is proof that leaves you firmly convinced the defendant is guilty. Did you catch that? These are the new rules, by the way. This is the new rule the jury will not have to follow. They're following the old rule, but from here on out, proof beyond a reasonable doubt is proof that leaves you firmly convinced the defendant is guilty. It is not required that the state prove the defendant's guilt beyond all possible doubt. What's the difference? This is what it used to say. This is what these jurors will follow. It's now struck, but it says, a reasonable doubt is not a mere possible or imaginary doubt. It is a doubt based on reason and common sense. It may arise from a careful and impartial consideration of all the evidence or from lack of evidence. If after considering all the evidence, you have a reasonable doubt about the defendant's guilty, you must find the defendant not guilty. Now it says, if after careful and impartial consideration of all the evidence, you are not convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant is guilty, it is your duty to find the defendant not guilty. On the other hand, if after a careful and impartial consideration of all the evidence, you are convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant is guilty, it is your duty to find the defendant guilty. The language is stronger. The language is more, in a way, clear. And that's why you would think Pryor, it kind of gives a window there that Pryor could say, yeah, let's go with the new ones, the new instructions versus the old, but they're not. Okay, I'm going to scan through here. By the way, you can go find this, all these, it's 32 pages. Here's the death penalty sentencing instructions introduction. These jury instructions are intended for the sentencing phase in capital cases, where eligibility for a death sentence and imposition of the death penalty are considered. Some of these instructions assume that there is a single murder victim involved in a case. Appropriate modifications should be made when there's more than one murder victim, such as this case. Some of these instructions assume that the defendant has been convicted after a trial. Appropriate modifications should be made when a defendant has pled guilty. In addition, some of the instructions contain bracketed information, blah, blah, blah. So we'll scroll down a little bit here. The death penalty is not a sentencing for this option or court. That's where it says it, the guilt phase of non-capital. Now we'll go to the part where the death penalty is there. Here's the first part. By the way, I'm not going to go through all this with you, but I'm going to go through much to hopefully give you a little bit of understanding, and me as well. The state is seeking the death penalty in this case. If the defendant is convicted of murder in the first degree, there will be a separate sentencing phase of the trial. At that sentencing phase, additional evidence may be presented and the jury will be given additional instructions. So did you hear that? If he is convicted of murder in the first degree, there will be a separate sentencing phase with additional witnesses and instructions. If the jury finds a statutory aggravating circumstance, but finds that death would be unjust, so there's aggravating circumstances, but they don't believe that death is just, the judge will sentence the defendant to a fixed life imprisonment. If the jury does not find a statutory aggravating circumstance, the judge must then sentence the defendant to life in prison, and the judge must set a fixed period of imprisonment of anywhere from 10 years up to life, during which the defendant will not be eligible for parole. Okay, so break it down. He's convicted of first-degree murder, and the jury says, yes, there were aggravating factors. Aggravating factors, the first one that pops out to me is that the deaths were done in a particularly heinous manner, which is the case in this case. All you need is one aggravating factor. Another aggravating factor, you murder a police officer. Another one, you kill an inmate while you're an inmate. Another, there's more than one death. There's a bunch of aggravating factors. So if the jury says, yes, first-degree murder, but there were not aggravating factors, then the judge can sentence someone, the defendant, from minimum of 10 years, no parole, up to life. If there were aggravating factors, and the jury says, yes, there were, but we don't feel he should get death, then he gets a fixed life, no parole. Or they can say he gets death. Make sense? Okay. The instruction should only be given if the defendant is charged with murder in the first degree and a valid death notice has been filed. That has definitely happened in this case. At the conclusion of the trial, this is said to the jury, you will decide whether the state has proved the defendant guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Do not concern yourself with the subject of penalty or punishment. That subject must not in any way affect your verdict. The judge is going to tell them that tomorrow. Don't worry about the guilt, or don't worry about the punishment. Focus on if the state proved that Chad Daybell committed these crimes. Here's your crimes. First-degree murder, 3 counts. Did he actually commit those? Did he actually commit 3 counts of conspiracy to commit the murders of JJ, Tylee, and Tammy? Did he commit grand theft? And did he commit insurance fraud? If he committed those, then the jury later will worry about the sentencing phase. So they're told, don't worry about that. So don't go in and discuss it. Although part of me wonders if you go in, this is my brain thinking, go into the group and be like, all right, anybody here think he's not guilty of this crime? Or you lay out all the crimes. All right, if everyone agrees that he's guilty, let's talk about the punishment. Life or death. They're not supposed to do that yet. They're not supposed to do that till they've come back and they've heard from these other witnesses and seen the other evidence. Okay, then here's what else we have. The defendant in this case has been convicted of the crime of this is if he's found guilty. The defendant in this case has been convicted of the crime of first-degree murder. We will now have a sentencing phase of the trial regarding that offense. Additional evidence may be presented during the sentencing phase. You may also consider the evidence presented during the trial. Before the death penalty can be considered, the state must prove at least one statutory aggravating circumstance beyond a reasonable doubt. If you unanimously decide that the state has so proven the one or more statutory aggravating circumstances, then you must decide whether the imposition of the death penalty would be unjust by weighing all mitigating circumstances against each statutory aggravating circumstance that has been proven. At a separate proceeding, the court will sentence the defendant for the other offenses of which you found him or her guilty. Okay, so that's interesting to me. That there'll be a separate proceeding for Chad Daybell if he's found guilty of the embezzlement and the insurance fraud and the grand theft. So there will be a separate hearing. I'm learning that with you tonight. But the jury will decide the other stuff. That'll be the big thing, obviously, is the stuff with the murder. So they have to weigh the aggravating against the mitigating circumstances, beyond a reasonable doubt, all that sort of stuff. It can be a little confusing. Notice this post-proof instructions. All these were struck, or have been updated, I should say. Your duties are to determine the facts, to apply the law set forth in my instructions to those facts, and in this way to decide the case. In so doing, you must follow my instructions regardless of your own opinion of what the law is or should be, or what either side may state the law to be. You must consider them as a whole, not picking out one and disregarding others. The order in which the instructions are given has no significance as to their relative importance. The law requires that your decision be made solely upon the evidence before you. Faithful performance by you of these duties is vital to the administration of justice. Okay, so again, I'm not going to read through all this. The judge will you'll hear it tomorrow. You definitely will, because he's going to read through all this. He talks about burden of proof. He talks about the victim impact statements, where victims have the right to personally address you by making a victim impact statement, which is a statement concerning the victim's personal characteristics and the emotional impact of a murder. A victim impact statement is not made under oath and is not subject to cross-examination. A victim may not make any statements that are characterizations or opinions about the crime, the defendant, or the appropriate sentence, and you should disregard any such comments. You may otherwise consider victim impact statements in your deliberations. So they're going to hear victim impact statements if Chad Daybell is found guilty, and if they are found guilty of the first-degree murder, then as part of the evidence and the new witnesses, victims will go up and make a statement. I imagine Kay Woodcock will. Samantha, Tammy's sister, probably will. Other victims probably will. Annie Cushing could come in and make a victim impact statement, and they can be considered when the jury decides whether Chad Daybell should get life or death. Then there's duties of the jury. There's so many more things here. So that's just kind of a flavor that you can go on and read. It's personally a little fascinating to me because so many of us have not really sat through a death penalty trial up to this point. And we're here. We're here. And we're getting close. We could have this determined soon. Like I said, a day from now, we could have a verdict. And it will be something else. Now, you might recall a day or so ago, I asked you to send me little video clips of your thoughts of the trial so far, and if anything has stuck out to you. I got so many clips. Thank you all so much. I put together a little montage. It's a couple minutes long of what you thought so far, and I want to play you some of your thoughts. And as these people are talking, let me know in the comments what you thought. I just pulled video clips. Many of you sent me written statements and a couple of audio recordings. I didn't include those here, but I do appreciate your feedback. And here is what the general public at large has thought so far.
Hello, Nate. My name is Amy Smith, and I'm from the Rexburg, Idaho area. The one thing that has stood out to me during this trial is Lindsay Blake from the prosecution. I think she's done an amazing job, and I really hope that justice is served.
Hi Nate, my name's Jess Gibson and I'm from Brewarrina in New South Wales, Australia. I just wanted to say that the most captivating part of the trial for me obviously would be the Emma Daybell's testimony. I think it was absolutely a load of BS. I understand that she's trying to obviously save another parent from death, but yeah, it just really breaks my heart to realise that she's not accepting the fact that her father's committed this crime.
Hi, my name is Donna Hawkins from Reno, Nevada, and the one thing that stuck out to me in the Chad Daybell's trial was the Sunday school children being 4.2 on the dark side. I thought that was really unnecessary to bring that in the trial.
Hi Nate, I'm Laura. I flew in from San Diego to watch the trial in person, and I was there the day they played that jailhouse call about the blueprints and the trouble they were having. And I was so struck then, and through the whole case, about the manipulation that was going both ways, and how juvenile and sort of middle school and insecure that manipulation was the whole time. Just, I guess I imagined that there would be more authority behind a lot of their interactions, but there wasn't. It was very immature.
Hey y'all, I've been live streaming the trial from Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I think the thing that stuck out to me the most is how little reaction, Chad has to anything at all. Like, he has shown very little emotion, and it's just super creepy. Don't care for it. 0 stars, do not recommend.
My name is Hillary, and I live in Enoch, Utah, in southern Utah. And something that has really stood out to me about this trial is the testimony of McKay. So McKay doesn't know the Daybell family. He didn't know Tammy. He hardly knows Garth. He didn't realize that what he heard was relevant until Tammy's death became suspicious. McKay has 0 reasons to lie. And what he said on the stand pretty much blew up everything Garth said.
Hi Nate, this is Robin, or my name is Robin. I watch the trial from home every day while I'm working. And the one thing that has always stood out to me is that Lori would not say where her children were. And the fact that the children were buried on Chad Daybell's property. He may have not killed Tylee and JJ, but if anything he's guilty of is conspiracy to commit murder. If he doesn't get the death penalty, then life times 3 is what he should get.
My name is Trista and I live in Meridian. I've been attending court almost every day. One of the biggest things for me, there's been a lot of moments with being there almost every day. There are a lot of surprising moments, but one of the biggest things for me, I think, is since we've seen almost all the witnesses, with how much Chad tried to keep his hands clean of probably turning his phone off and those things during the big events. Didn't do a good job of keeping his story straight with all the other people, like McKay testifying with what Garth told him, and just Emma's testimony, Garth's 911 call. His story doesn't line up with everyone else.
My name is Rita Lehman. I live in North Ridgeville, Ohio. That's a suburb of Cleveland. I've been following East Idaho news since the Lori Vallow trial. I have watched almost every minute, or at least listened to every minute of this trial. The 2 points that stick out to me is when the real estate witness said that John Pryor owned the land and he should know how many acres it was. And when John Pryor called Tammy Daybell's death murder. And these were things that really stuck out to me, and I hope to the jury.
Hi Nate, I'm Kim from Seagrove Beach, Florida. I watch you every night. I followed you through Lori's trial, and I'm following you through Chad's trial, along with watching it daily. There's a lot of things that are bad. They're beyond evil, but I think the thing that has stuck out in my mind has been that Chad has let his kids get up on the stand and perjure themselves.
Good morning, Nate and Courtroom Insider. This is Sabrina Harper, and I am from Jasper, Georgia, and I have been watching the trial. Thank you for covering it so well. The thing that stood out to me the most was that we still don't know what truly happened, and that the children are very, very, very loyal to their father. So I'm interested in finding out what the other children feel like, so I'm hoping after this trial that's what we find out.
Hi Nate, Chad Mortensen here. I met you yesterday outside the courtroom. I think the most powerful thing for me yesterday was being in the courtroom, watching that snippet, that video clip of Tylee and JJ on September 8th at Yellowstone, and being able to look around and see everybody's reactions. Looking forward to justice being done. Thanks for your great coverage.
Hi Nate, Barbie Hernandez from North Carolina. I've been following since the beginning when you were chasing them down the Hawaii beaches. The thing that I find amazing is that this has just brought so much care and concern from people all over the world who are just looking for justice for Tylee, JJ, Charles, and Tammy.
Hi Nate, I'm Tina. I live in Michigan, been following this case since day one. My biggest take on this whole thing is the smug Chad Daybell sitting there knowing exactly what happened to those children and not giving two rips about it. Makes me sick to my stomach, and he's disgusting, and he should spend his life in bars. Thank you.
Hello. The number one thing that stuck out to me from watching the live stream all these weeks was when Chad told Emma, "I'm not coming back," when he was in the back of the police car. An innocent person would never say that. An innocent person would be horrified there were dead bodies, the children in his backyard. So to me, that was like a confession, and hopefully the jury picked up on that. My name is Rhonda, and I'm calling from northern Michigan.
Hi, Nate. My name is Jessica. I'm from Wasilla, Alaska. One thing that has stuck out to me from Chad's trial is the jailhouse phone call between him and Lori before the kids were found. In their coded speak, and they're talking about backyard projects and putting in a pool and excavating, and each time I hear it, I catch something different that I didn't catch before, and it just, the more you listen to it, it's a really telling phone call.
Nate, here's my question. They have all of the text messages between Lori and Alex that they've used throughout the whole trial. But the dates, the last known dates for Tylee and JJ and Tammy, there aren't any messages, and Verizon didn't store them. So why were these deleted from the iCloud account on these dates? That's what I've always wondered, is the dates that we really are curious about are the dates the messages are missing from the iCloud accounts.
Hey, we're Danae and Kevin from Burley, Idaho. We went to trial the day the Williams testified, and the most shocking to me was when Jason said that Samantha was dark and that Chad told him his kids were good at keeping secrets.
I was affected by the feeling in the courtroom. I was surprised that more of what I felt was just sympathy for the victims and support for the victims.
Hey Nate, Sally Sipes from Sharon, Arkansas. Been watching the case from day one from jury selection. And the one thing that's really gotten me the last couple of weeks is how much Emma and Garth are lying on the stand to protect their father. Seems a little sus to me.
Hi Nate, Trina from Idaho Falls here. I attended a couple of days of the Chad Daybell trial as well as a few days of Lori's trial last year. What surprised me this year is that we don't have all of the GPS and text message data from Chad's phone. We have so much information on locations and conversations from Alex's phone as well as Lori's iCloud information, but we just don't have any of that data from Chad's phone, and I think everybody is really disappointed about that.
Hi, my name is Gina Gilmore. I have been watching the trial from the beginning, from Mexico, Texas, Alaska, and now I'll see the end of it from Texas. What has stood out to me the most? The lack of any emotion from Chad during evidence, testimony, whatever. His face is totally blank. No empathy at all.
So many good comments. I wish I could get all your videos in there. Thank you to those who send them. And big special shout outs to Chad Mortensen and Kevin, the two guys representing the men folk in that video. I did meet Chad. I actually met both Chad and Kevin. Chad came last year to the trial. Really nice guy and always very handsomely dressed. And there are more guys that do come. Most of you all come up and are like, yeah, she dragged me here. But there are a lot of guys that are into this. I know you are, and that's just fine. And I know I'm going to meet a lot of you at CrimeCon of the dudes that really are into this, into true crime type things. So thank you for your videos. Really interesting insight about your points. I think when this is all done, next week or the week after, whenever it is, I might do a recap show about the things that really stuck out to me the most. I went into this knowing it would be a different trial than Lori's. There's been a lot of differences. Excuse me. There's been a lot of differences to me, especially this last part of the trial, obviously because we had a defense, but a lot of stuff too that was brought up at Lori's, that was brought up again here, that was really emphasized, like Tammy's death seemed to really be emphasized in this one versus the other one. And things that were emphasized in Lori's that were just kind of mentioned in this one. And we were, talking today as we were waiting in the hallway of people that were there last year versus this year about just some of those differences. And there were some differences. So again, thank you to all of you who sent me in videos, and I appreciate it. And I have to thank everybody that got a mugshot shirt. Check out this photo gallery. I didn't have time to put in all your pictures, but here are just several that I got from people all over the country. I promise those of you that ordered mugshot shirts that haven't gotten them yet, they are on the way. Hopefully we have them all out this week. If I'm back in the newsroom next week, I personally am going to go in and I'm going to package the rest of them, and I'll send you a little note or whatever. Many of you are emailing saying, where's my shirt? And we are hopefully going to get more. So if you missed out, don't feel left out. There's a photo coming up here in a minute of two sisters, I believe, or friends. I apologize, I don't remember, who came to court today wearing their shirts. Luckily they weren't. There we go. I'm going to pause that one. Oh, whoops. Oh, shoot. They came to court today wearing their shirts. There they are. And that luckily they had, you're not supposed to wear signs or like slogans on your shirt or wear wristbands or anything, buttons, anything like that in the courtroom. There has to be neutrality. Luckily they had on jackets over their shirts, but we went outside and took a photo. So thank you for all of you that did get the shirts. And then I have to tell you a little personal favor here for me. This is Teresa and her sister Gina. I went to high school with Teresa, and and my brother was really good friends with Gina, and they drove up from Utah yesterday and came to court. And it was so great catching up with them, getting caught up on all my high school friends that they're still in touch with, and having them share their input from going to court. And Teresa's husband owns a taffy place called Taffy Town, and they make saltwater taffy. And they've got 100 flavors, and I'm going to try one tonight on the air, the pickle taffy. I told her I'd try this for you, and then I'm going to get to your questions, I promise. I know one of you, at least, is going to email me saying, why am I talking about pickle taffy? Because I get those type of emails every day. It's just a little bit of fun here. So let's see if this is going to be my new favorite thing. Woo! It's not that bad. It definitely tastes like pickles. Oh yeah. Okay. I think I'll stick with watermelon. And woo! Okay. That was interesting. They gave me 2 or 3 kinds of every flavor. There's like honey lavender. I'm not getting paid, by the way. I am endorsing this, but thank you. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, Gina. Thank you, pickle flavor. Here's the deal. Tomorrow, I'm at the courthouse in the morning. I have my ticket. I'm going to be living there until the jurors go home, or until they go to their living quarters when they're sequestered, assuming they are. We'll find out tomorrow. Maybe we won't. I don't know. The judge might not announce it. So I'm going to be living off that taffy. And again, as I said, I don't know if I'll be here tomorrow night. I hope so. Thursday night, I'll be on a plane. No Courtroom Insider unless we get a verdict that morning and I have a break. I definitely want to do one. But we'll be back Friday. We'll be back Saturday. Sunday, I'll be back in Boise because we'll likely have the penalty phase, assuming that there's a guilty verdict. And then we'll continue on. So it's a whole bunch of uncertainty, and we love uncertainty, don't we? Here are some photos that I was going through my phone today that took me back to 2020. We've heard a lot about justice for JJ and Tylee, Tammy, and Charles. And while this particular case isn't about Charles, it is about justice for at least 3 of these people. And it's coming very soon, within a matter of hours or days. This was from a vigil back in the summer of 2020 in Rexburg, where people got together and sang and lit candles and remembered these people who almost everybody there, probably everybody there, had never met them. But these are some photos I took that I've kept on my phone forever. I'll probably never delete them, to remember JJ, Tylee, Tammy. We've talked for 4+ years about when will this get going? When will this get going? It's getting there. It's getting there. For the past 8.5 weeks, we've sat through some of the most crushing stuff you'll ever hear, and seen photos and heard descriptions of images that will never leave our mind, the jury's mind. But it's coming. Justice is coming. How that ever plays out, however the justice system plays out, we know that it's coming. And so I wanted to share those photos tonight as we remember Joshua, JJ Vallow, and Tylee, and Charles, and Tammy. Okay, got a couple shout outs, and then we have some questions. Candace Laguerre, your sister Wendy in Idaho. Hi, Wendy in Idaho. Candace lives in Chandler, and they went on a cruise a couple weeks ago. They didn't have internet, so she texted me updates so I could stay informed. Well, thank you. That's nice of you. Jennifer Burrup turns 50 today. Happy birthday from your true crime bestie, Megan, and from me, Nate Eaton, and all of us here at Courtroom Insider. Peggy says hi, too. Saka Knack. She'd like you to say cheesy egg chatters are the best. Cheesy egg chatters are the best. Juanita George, Nate, I need a shout out all the way in Brisbane, Australia. I will always give a shout out to Brisbane, Australia. That's where my heart is. I live there. Aaron says, I wish you were my dad, Nate. Thank you. I don't know if you want that. Laura Lee Plumel, Slum Kitty, Dan Johnson, Christina Carlisle, Susanna Arnold had a cake on JJ's birthday on Saturday. She said she will never forget the kids. Thank you. I forgot to mention that. It was JJ's birthday Saturday. And over Memorial Day weekend, there was so much going on. But yeah, JJ would have been 12. Brandon Kuhn, hi to you. Natasha Freeman, good to see you. Juanita Maring, even on vacation. Or Jaretta, even on vacation, you are watching. And I just got an alert that the power is out all over Boise. I'm glad we're still on. I'm glad the lights are still on because of this storm. All right, Peggy, here's your questions. Big thanks to Peggy. Everybody give Peggy a thanks in the comments. She's helped put this thing together for the past 8.5 weeks. I feel like it's the last episode. I know it's not. We've at least got several more, but like it's getting real that we're finally coming to an end. Jeannie, will the jury definitely be getting the case tomorrow, or could there possibly be a day between? I do not see the judge giving instructions, having closing arguments, and then saying, okay, come back tomorrow and we'll start. I guess there's always a chance, but if Lori Vallow's case is any indication, they're going to get started right away. So they were probably told today, they had most of today off. They came in for like 2 hours. They were probably told, go home, get your stuff in order, because the pedal's hitting the metal now. We're really getting going now. So I don't think we'll have another day off. Now, there's a chance maybe that if the verdict comes back as guilty and we have to go into the penalty phase, that maybe the judge says, if the verdict comes down, say Thursday at 10 a.m., he says, okay, we're going to take the rest of the day off and we'll start the penalty phase tomorrow. So yeah, that's what could possibly happen. But I don't know. He could just go right into it. Dan says, if Chad gets the death penalty, do you think they would grant a phone call or visit between Chad and Lori since they are married? Definitely not a visit. If he's on death row, he gets out 1 hour a day to go walk outside or do whatever. But yeah, I don't see that happening. They might be able to call each other, but I doubt it. Stephanie says, how do weekends work with deliberations? If the jury doesn't have a verdict by Friday night, do they keep going Saturday? And if they do and come to a verdict on Saturday, then what? Good question, Stephanie. I wish I had a solid answer for you. Judge Boyce did say when we started this that it's possible the jury could deliberate on Saturdays. If the jury is sequestered, which we assume he will do, because he mentioned it, that there's a possibility that that would happen, the jury doesn't go home until they've reached a verdict. They can go back to the hotel or wherever they're staying, but that's it. So, and the judge said there's a possibility we have court on Saturday. So if the jury is still going Friday night, a lot of it will be left up to the jury too, where they will get to say, we want to keep going. Or if they're like, we really got to go take a break, it's kind of in their hands. So yeah, good question. I wish we had the answers to those questions. I understand the judge not announcing all of it, because then, honestly, if the judge is like, all right, we're sequestering the jury, there would be people out there that would try to find which hotel they were at. As weird as that sounds, I know they would. And there have been times during this trial where the hotel where I've been staying, people associated with the case are staying. And I just kind of have to go out of my way to avoid them at the breakfast line. But that'd be weird if the jury was here. They're not, at least that I know of, because they're not sequestered yet. They're at their houses. Lisa says, with this trial coming to an end, could you give us your feelings since this time has consumed so much of your time and efforts, especially the evidence and photos? Lisa, that's a big question. I'd have to think about that for a minute. Overall, if you could say it was life-changing, I guess it was. Lori's was. I do think Lori's emotionally affected me more mentally, because I had never seen those photos before and they showed them, and I wasn't prepared. I didn't think that they would be that bad, especially of JJ, and I have sons who are that age, and I will never forget that photo, ever. Those photos of his face being taped, and his hands being bound and his ankles being bound. I will never forget those photos. And it shook me up. They didn't show them this year to the gallery. But we did see some pictures of Tylee, of her remains. This year, I think it was more physically tiring because it was longer. A lot of the days I was in the courtroom thinking, well, we've heard this. Like, in a way, why are we here? Like, we've heard this before. Even talking with Kay Woodcock today, I hope I'm not speaking out of turn. She told me that she just got so tired this time around that she got to the point where she's like, I can't go. I went every day, other than one day I did get sick and I was at a wedding for a couple of days there in the middle. But, yeah, I'll have to think about it. I will miss it. There's a lot of things I'll miss. There's a lot of really cool people and things that I'll miss, but I'm ready for the next phase of life. Karen asks if Pryor stormed out of court today. Not that I know of. He did, after he questioned one of the witnesses, he kind of stormed away from the podium, walked in a huff back to his table, I guess you could say, put down his notebook. Do we have any jury watch contest rules yet? Sharon says. Oh, Sharon, that's a good question. As far as like guessing the time and whatnot, I will put that on my Facebook page. Here's what you need to do. Don't go there. Go here. Go to Nate Eaton Reporter, my Facebook page. I'll put that up probably tomorrow when closing arguments are done and the jury goes back into their deliberations. I'm going to set a timer on my phone and I'm not going to shut it off until we're back, so I can get the exact minute, hour, second. And knowing me, I'll probably accidentally turn it off after 10 minutes. But anyway, I'll post that, and I'd love for you all to guess, and we'll do something. We'll give a prize, maybe some East Idaho News swag or shirts, or maybe I'll call one of you and take you to dinner or something. I don't know. Nate, could you do a poll on what we think the verdict will be, not what we believe, but what we think the jury will say? Sure, yeah, leave it in the comments right now. Cindy asked that. Leave it in the comments what you think the jury will say, how you think you think they'll decide. That'd be interesting to hear. Kitty says, where can we send the photo with our text? And what exactly should we write again for the last Courtroom Insider? I don't know what you mean, Kitty. You mean the photo of you in the mugshot shirt? You can send that to me on my email, or you can put it on my Facebook messages, or you can put it in the comments. I hope to show more of those as the time goes on, but again, it all depends on the time. Okay, I have a couple more. Here we go. Nate, you brought us this through 4 years. Glenn says, Nate, you've brought us through 4 years of this case. What testimony has stood out to you the most and why? Oh my. A couple have stuck out to me. Zulema's this time around was pretty key. I think she said a lot. She had documents that she said a lot. I think this trial will always remember the kids testifying because it was new. We hadn't heard from them, and I think what they said surprised a lot of people. I think that I'll remember Summer's testimony from the last trial because they played that phone call, and it was so heartbreaking. Summer Shiflett. Colby as well. Those are just some that stick out. I'd have to go back and think about it. Why didn't the prosecution play any jail calls with Emma and Chad? Shirley says, that's a good question. I wish they would have. I really wish they would have. There must not have been stuff on there that they thought was worth bringing in, but I would have loved to hear those. Will Emma and Garth be charged with perjury? Christy asks. I have no idea. It's possible. That'll be big news if they are, and we'll follow it. And then I guess we'll do another Courtroom Insider. I don't know. Area 51, do you think the prosecution watches your stream for information on things they might have missed? People here have pointed out so many contradicting testimonies. I don't know if the prosecution watches. I don't know if the defense watches. I don't know if anybody watches. To be honest with you, the screens I have up here, I have 2 computers up on my phone. I rarely have the comments going because it distracts me, but I will on my phone sometimes. And so I don't know who's watching, but I hope if they are, hi. I appreciate you watching. I don't know if they're supposed to, but if they are, I hope that I get it right. My main thing here is I don't want to report rumors. I want to report fact. And if I get something wrong, I want to own it. And that reminds me, the video I showed you yesterday of Tammy Daybell, apparently that was at her school in Springville, Utah in 2014, not from the Sugar City School. I had that wrong. So I apologize for that mistake. That was from several years ago, well, 10 years ago now, from 2014. Nikki says, what about the victim impact statements? When will we hear them? We'll hear them during the penalty phase. We likely will not hear all of them because some people just submit them to the judge. Or I guess maybe the jury gets to read them in this case. But they'll read them, and then that'll be that. Do you think the prosecution didn't use Chad's post from AVOW, which contradicts Tammy's condition and how he found her when she died? Lisa. I don't know why they didn't bring that in, to be honest with you. I have only seen half of that message, half of that post. If any of you have the full post of Chad Daybell's column when he wrote it on AVOW, the website after Tammy died, I'd love to see it. You can send it to me anonymously, neaton@eastidahonews.com. As with any tips associated with this case, you can email me. If you want to remain anonymous, I will keep you anonymous. If you know jurors who are currently serving and they complete their service and they want to talk, please have them or you reach out to me because I'd love to interview them too. I think it'd be fascinating to hear their side. Did Lori live in Tammy's house after their wedding and before her arrest? Melissa. We don't have any sign of that, Melissa. I think that she was staying in her townhome, and Chad had told the neighbors that he was going to go live with his friend, likely in her townhome. So I believe that's where Lori was staying. Why is Chad so secretive about what's on his computer? Isn't it the same thing we're seeing in court? Cindy says. Not necessarily. All of the evidence, from what I understand, is loaded onto that computer so he can go through and sort things and see what's on and what's coming up. And he just doesn't want the bailiffs to see it or the gallery to see it. So that's why he'll close the top when we go to a break. Nate, if Julie Rowe wasn't subpoenaed, why wasn't she allowed in the courtroom? Well, there were, I don't know how many subpoenas, 90, 100 subpoenas that went out. And not all those people testified. There were people who came to Boise ready to take the stand, and then they were sent home. So a lot of it could be, we'll put them under subpoena just in case and keep them quiet, but they don't get called. So I don't know why she didn't. I watched last night the interview I did with Julie Rowe in 2020, 3 days before the kids were found. And I think we're going to release it because it's quite different on what she has publicly said about what she allegedly told me versus what we have on tape. So I would hate to distract from the story at this point by posting it, but I think we might soon, maybe. I believe all the autopsy photos, this is from Rita, were shown to everyone in the courtroom in the Vallow case. Why not in the Daybell case? Good question, Rita. I don't know. I imagine because it was a live stream and the judge thought I could show some days it was shown in the courtroom, but not on the live stream. And there must have just been more sensitivity factors in this case for the judge to not show them to everybody. And that's what it is. I mean, so yeah, that's his decision. Do you think Pryor will write a book? I don't know if he'll write a book. I hope he does an interview with me after the fact. I don't know if he'll write a book. He could. Or maybe he'll co-write it with Chad. Riza, any thoughts or inside information as to why the prosecution didn't call Emma back as a rebuttal witness? In Blake's cross-examination of Emma, she seemed to set it up that she had information about Emma's testimony during the phone call with Chad. I've had so many people ask me today why Emma wasn't recalled, or Garth. I don't know. Obviously, the prosecution felt that having them come back as rebuttal witnesses wouldn't help the case to the point they would need it, and maybe they figured just let it go, just let their testimonies stand as they were given, and that could be why. Now, they could come on during the penalty phase and try to fight for their dad's life. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's found guilty. I'm sure we'll hear from them again. Cindy. Emma said she was getting a cell phone, but her text says she learned about her mom's shooting from Facebook. Her husband told her about it, and she checked it out on Facebook. But she had to go to her parents to Google wind direction. Then how could she get on Facebook at home, and why would her husband have a phone but not her? I don't know. So many questions, and I wish I had the answers. And that's where it stands. Okay, so here's what you got to do tomorrow. This graphic is wrong. This says 8:30. We're not going to start at 8:30 tomorrow. We're going to start at 10. That's when the court begins. 10 a.m. Again, if you don't have a ticket, don't show up. Watch it from wherever you're at, because there is such limited seating in that courtroom that you likely will not get in. And there's going to be people there that have tickets, and then there'll be law enforcement that go in, and seating will be limited. And then once that's done, it'll be released. I mean, we'll be released, and we'll be hanging out at the courthouse ready to go. I'll do live written updates tomorrow. I'll be tweeting as long as court is in session. And then after that, it's a to be determined. I hope to be back here tomorrow night with Courtroom Insider. If the verdict comes down at like 10 o'clock at night or 11 o'clock at night, I'm going to come back and I'm going to go live whenever. If it's 2 in the morning, we're going to go live. So for those of you overseas that stay up late or get up early, we're going to go live. I do want to talk with you about it and get your thoughts about the verdict. So maybe if it's 2 in the morning, I might go to sleep, but then we'll talk the next morning. There will be some shows. You just got to kind of tune in. Be sure that you are subscribed to the East Idaho News YouTube right here. Ding. There you go. Hit those buttons. Follow us and subscribe if you want. We also do this focus issue. The monitor behind me gets out of focus. Many of you have asked how you can support East Idaho News. If you go to eastidahonews.com/donate, all those donations go directly to our newsroom and allow us to continue to pursue journalism and news, and without charging our people, without charging our readers or our viewers. I strongly believe that news and information should be available to everyone and that you shouldn't have to pay for it. But it kind of is a business too. So thank you to our advertisers that support us, and thank you to all of you who support us. Here's where you can keep the latest updates in the coming days. If you're not following me on Facebook, you might want to. That's where I post the latest news, along with Twitter, Instagram to n.eaton, East Idaho News YouTube, Meet in the Eatons YouTube. We just hit 40,000 subscribers on the Meet in the Eatons today, which blows me away. I don't know 40,000 people. I can't believe you all would be interested, but that's amazing. Okay, we're going to shut off now. Thank you for watching. In a minute or so, you might see us testing some things. Jordan is here across the hall getting ready to go. We're going to test out our live system, be sure we're ready to go when the verdict comes down. Allow me to, if it comes down when I'm in Nashville, to cut in and let you know what's happening and guide you through the process if you need that, and then go live from the courthouse. So here we go. Excited for tomorrow. Tune in. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you.